Alright, let's get back to working on this CR 125 powered off-road shifter cart. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to finish some of the engine mounts. I also kind of want to redo some of the mounts because the original engine mounts aren't really that great on here. So let's redo them and get this engine firmly mounted in the frame. Yeah, I told you all these mounts were only temporary. Alright, that is a lot better already. Now, I haven't changed the front mounts yet, but I'm not really sure exactly how to. I was thinking of adding a piece of tubing, going down and around up to here, and then shortening these mounts, which I think it'd be a lot easier to do once the front shocks are off. We still need to redo the front mounts, but we can do that later. So, next thing is let's figure out how we are installing the steering wheel. Now, I've been trying to figure out how to do this without adding a third steering U-joint, because then that just adds more play to the steering, because steering U-joints aren't perfect. And I kind of think I figured it out. I just need to add a really long steering column going from this to the steering U-joint, which is going to have to be 12.5 inches long. Now, also, I've been really trying to figure out how are we doing the controls in this thing, because if we're doing normal shifter cart controls, then we can just use a simple steering wheel like this, but I kind of don't want that. I kind of want to have this thing have the controls similar to the Grave Ninja, which means we have to have this as the clutch, this would be front brakes, and we have to have a thumb throttle, which means we have to build a custom steering wheel from scratch, which is not the end of the world, but it just makes it slightly different how we do the steering. yeah, the steering wheel is only temporary, just to get this tacked into place in the frame, just so I can make sure it's in a good spot. And then I'll replace this with something else. So how does this look? Not only, you know, how well does it, because I want to make sure, I didn't want the steering wheel to like way down here, and I'm doing this. This kind of feels like a tractor steering, which, I don't know. Is that good for a go-kart? I don't know. Naturally, there's a little bit of play in it, but that's just in the steering U-joints. These aren't perfect steering U-joints. There is a little bit of play in them. So this is going to make the steering just, you know, whatever. Alright, that should make this nice and strong enough. Now, I was originally planning on having it go from here over to here, but it would be in the way of the air filters, so I decided to do it from here down to here. Now, this thing looks even more like a tractor now that I added this. Now, something I'm kind of noticing with the steering is the steering geometry is not that great. So when I'm turning it full lock to lock, you can see in this direction, this one basically stops turning, but that one keeps turning. And that's just kind of due to how I have tie rods attached to the steering, whatever the heck this little thing is called. Because they're on a two separate bolts, and because it's swinging, it changes the distance between the tie rods, making it to where in this, you know, when it's turned full lock, the distance between the tie rods gets a lot closer. So therefore this one turns a lot more and that one basically stops turning. It also makes it to where the pivot point of this gets a lot shorter. It's a little hard to explain, but basically it's just how I have this. So I'm kind of thinking, what if I change it to have each tie rod on one single bolt instead of two separate bolts? That'll make it to where the tie rods are on a single yeah, I am not great at explaining, so let me just change the tie rods, put them to one single bolt, and see if it'll fix this issue, because yeah, that's not good. That would make steering really weird. Yeah, so that is a lot. It still does it a little bit, but it's a lot better than before. I mean, that one is still turning, and this one is turning a lot. I was a little concerned about bump steer, and it actually seems like it still doesn't have any bump steer, which is perfect. Nice, look at that. And it actually seemed to fix the issue of it had bump steer before when it was turned full lock. Now it's nowhere near as bad. So yeah, the steering is a lot better now that I did that. So I added this to have a spot to put my feet, but unfortunately I didn't make it long enough because my foot ends up more right here. So I cut this out and bent this up. I'm gonna weld, I have one for this side and one for the other side. And this just makes it to where it extends to where I can put, because I'm probably going to want to have the pedal somewhere right here. And then once I weld this in place, I'll put some type of screen mesh all on this side and on that side. Alright, let's figure out where the muffler is going on this thing. Now I think that pretty much the only spot is right about here. We just have to figure out how to connect this up to the expansion chamber up there. So I just realized if I tack this right here, then the suspension is just going to hit this. So I need to collapse the suspension just so I can see, you know, how high does this get, and just make sure that it doesn't hit the bottom of this.
Come on.
Now, I know it's a little interesting having this, the exhaust really close to where I put my feet, but I didn't want to put any more really sharp bends in this, because I was originally thinking of having it go under here, going through here, having a sharp 90 going out, and then another sharp 90 going over here. That'd make it to where it clears this, but that's just, there's too many bends. I didn't want to do that with this, so I just decided to put it right here. If this is an issue of this getting really hot next to my feet, I can always wrap this in header tape, or header wrap, whatever it is. So this thing is getting pretty close to being ready to fully strip this thing down, welding the frame together, and then we can reassemble it, start hooking everything up. But there's only a couple more things we need to add to this, like the controls. We do need to replace this temporary steering wheel with the permanent one we're going to be using. We also need to install the radiators and the gas tank. Now, I think let's start working on the gas tank next. I've been really trying to figure out where to put a gas tank on this thing. There's not really that many great spots. I was kind of thinking of putting it somewhere right here because there's kind of a, but it's not really, now that I added the steering wheel and everything, there's not really that many great spots for a gas tank right here. So I kind of think the easiest spot would just be to build a small round gas tank and put it behind the seat. Because all the weight's in the front of this thing already, so let's put a little bit more weight in the back end of this thing and put the gas tank in the back. We are going to have to use a pulse pump to get the gas to the carburetor, but that's not the end of the world. So, perfect timing with needing to build a gas tank for this project because a couple weeks ago, Everlast reached out to me and offered to send me one of their TIG welders, and I asked for this one. This is their Typhoon 230 AC DC TIG welder. It can also do stick welding. Comes with a nice stick welder stinger. Also comes with 2 separate TIG torches. This one's air cooled, this one's water cooled, and has a rotating head, which is kind of cool. Now, the reason I asked for this one is because it can do 110 and 220, because I only have 110 in this shed, and but I do have the capability for 220. If I drag out that giant extension cord from my house into here, I can have 220, but for the most part, I only have 110 in this shed, so... Now, I'll be doing a further in-depth review on this thing later on down the road once I get used to this thing, once I learn all of its features and use it for a little bit. I'll do a better review on this thing, but for now, like with everything, links in the description below. Definitely go check it out. Now, I actually have my plasma cutter that I use to run the Arc Droid. That is also a Everlast plasma cutter, and that thing's been working awesome. Been using it for, I think, what, 2 years now? And I really like that machine, and I've been looking at the features that this machine has, and I'm anxious to see what this thing can do, because it has a lot of really cool features. Now, let's plug this thing in, set it up, and see what it can do. Not bad, not bad. Look at that. So, I've been playing around with this for about 45 minutes, and I gotta say, I like this thing already. It's got some really awesome features. It has a really nice feature where you basically just tell it the thickness of material you're using, the thickness of tungsten you're using, and it sets all the settings for you, which I think is pretty cool. This does come with a 9 series TIG torch. I'm used to a 17 series, which is a little bit bigger than this one. And all the collets and all the cups I have is for a 17 series, so I may see if I can get one of those. But this is nice to have. It's a lot smaller. I can tell it'd be a lot easier to get in, really cramped areas. For me, I really prefer having a finger switch instead of the pedal. The pedal is annoying to have, and the finger switch is, in my opinion, a lot nicer to have. And it's awesome that it comes with it already installed. Now, anyway, like I said before, I'll do a further in-depth review on this thing once I get more used to this machine, learn all its features and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, let's start working on building the gas tank for this thing. So I went to pressure test this thing, and the only brass fitting that I had that fits onto these, I believe these are 1/2-inch threads, because this is actually the only bung that I had. I welded it in place, but I didn't think about the size of brass fitting that fits on here, and I don't have any hoses that actually fit onto this, so I tried to take it off and replace it with this one. This one's slightly smaller, but when I tried to take this off, it actually galled all the threads. Ooh. Yeah, you can totally hear those threads are totally mangled. Ooh. Wow. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to cut this out and replace this bung with one that has smaller threads. Therefore I can use a smaller one of these, because this one's kind of huge. Way bigger than what I needed. So once I do that, then I can pressure test it. But for now, this thing is pretty much done. So next thing is let's weld it onto the frame. So gas tank is pretty much done. Like I said before, we do have to still pressure test this and make sure it's not leaking. Once I replace the bung with the proper size one, because I welded in one that's a little bit too big, I'll pressure test it, make sure it's not leaking, and then that thing's pretty much done. Now, that new Everlast welder definitely makes it a lot easier to weld aluminum like this. I'm still learning all of its features, but I like that thing already. Like I said before, links in the description below for that thing. Definitely go check it out if you want to. Now, yeah, thunder in the distance. Well, basically all week this week has just been really thundering. Not really that much lightning, just more thundering and raining on and off, which, you know, I don't mind. It's better than, you know, 85, 90 degrees with 60, 70% humidity. I'd rather have it rainy and slightly cooler. Now, next video, we get to install the radiators. We need to figure out controls on this thing, as well as replace this steering wheel with the actual control steering wheel, whatever we decide to do for this thing. I'm not exactly sure yet on how I'm doing controls. I'm either doing a hand shifter or a foot shifter, and either way completely changes how we're doing controls. I'm kind of more leaning towards a foot shifter because that kind of makes it a lot easier to do the controls. It makes it to where we can have a hand clutch, and the other hand is the front brake, and then a thumb throttle. Now all we need is this side is rear brake, and that side is gear shift. That may kind of be just the easiest way to set this up. So I may just, I don't know, I may just do that because the Grave Ninja's set up in the exact same way. Anyway, guys, this is it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.